Okay, hello and welcome everyone. So in this video, I'm going to talk about marginal analysis. Video is all about marginal analysis. And marginal analysis is one of the key tools in economics. It's one of the keys to our toolkit that we're building our economic perspective from. It involves focusing on incremental changes and leads us to some actionable guidance in the form of what we call the marginal principle, which is how we apply marginal analysis. Marginal analysis or marginal reasoning really just involves breaking down a how much decision, like how much water to drink or how many minutes to sleep, into smaller incremental decisions. So we want to think about the incremental benefit, the extra benefit, the marginal benefit of doing one more unit of the activity, and compare it to the incremental cost, the extra cost, or the marginal cost of doing one additional unit of the activity, whatever the activity might be. So in the water example, I'm implicitly solving the problem of how much water to drink in total by evaluating how much I feel or how I feel after every sip. Right? If the marginal benefit associated with drinking additional water exceeds the marginal cost of another sip, then I'll take another sip. But I don't want to keep drinking so much that I get waterlogged, right? If the extra cost of drinking an additional sip of water exceeds the extra benefit that I'll receive, I stop drinking water. Our marginal principle is telling us we achieve the best possible outcome when we exactly benefit the marginal benefit against its marginal cost. So the marginal benefit of one more sip of water is exactly the marginal cost of one additional sip of water. Beyond that point, the marginal cost is larger than the marginal benefit, and before that point, the marginal benefit exceeds the marginal cost. So as long as the marginal benefit of drinking more water exceeds the marginal cost, I keep drinking. And once the marginal cost exceeds the marginal benefit, I'll hopefully have already stopped. Now that's just a simple example. Maybe we're dealing with discrete units. And so that's often the case in business. Maybe I've got a snow removal business and I've got one pickup truck with a plow. Should I get another? That's a discrete choice. I'm getting integer values of trucks. So I have one truck, maybe I get two, maybe I get three. I'm not going to have 1.1 or 2.2 or 2.5 trucks. So discrete units are going to be individual instantiations of whatever is that unit rather than a continuous variable where you think about this on like the real number scale or whatever. Okay, so should I get another truck though? Well, in order to answer this question, I need to compare the extra benefit of running the second plow to its extra cost. So I've got to hire another driver, got to pay their hourly wage, I've got to pay for gas along the additional route. Those are all going to be brought into the marginal cost of the second truck that I'd be bringing on board. Is it worth it? Well, there's also a marginal benefit. There's the additional benefit from running an additional truck in my fleet. So it's how much additional revenue do I get from serving the additional customers made possible by having that truck. Well, as this is happening, it might not be the case that I can perfectly equate marginal benefit to marginal cost, because maybe the marginal benefit of the second truck, even if that's the optimal number of trucks, isn't exactly equal to the marginal cost of the second truck, right? In the discrete example, we just stop before the marginal cost exceeds the marginal benefit. So as long as the marginal benefit of the second truck is larger than the marginal cost of the second truck, and if it's the case that the marginal benefit of the third truck would be smaller than the marginal cost of the third truck, then I stop at 2 trucks, and that would be the optimal number of trucks, right? In the discrete example, we stop before the marginal cost exceeds the marginal benefit. We'll go right up to that point. As long as the marginal benefit is greater than the marginal cost, we're feeling good, and we're going to add those units. But once the marginal cost exceeds the marginal benefit, we've gone too far. Now, if we're thinking about other things in business, maybe we're thinking about sales. Our marginal benefit is probably just the additional marginal revenue from selling that additional unit of output. Marginal cost, still the marginal cost. So this is why our optimization decision, the prescription we're giving for our manager, for our firm to think about, coming up with the optimal outcome, boils down to just comparing marginal revenue to marginal cost. This is our marginal principle applied to business. It's a consequence of marginal analysis. MR equals MC is how we think about finding the profit maximizing level of output, for instance, for a monopoly or for a firm in the competitive market. MR equals MC gives us the optimal level of output. It's actually based on the calculus of optimization, and you don't need to discuss you don't need to understand calculus. We don't need to discuss derivatives to understand the concept here, but it's definitely at the heart of what's going on with marginal analysis. So the conceptual illustration I can give is helpful, even if you're not familiar with calculus. You could think of optimization as trying to find the highest possible point, like maximizing profit, or you're walking up a hill and you're trying to find the maximal height of the hill. So think of a big hill. How do you know when you've reached the high point? Maybe it's too dark for you to see, but it's a type of hill that's grassy. You don't have to worry about tripping or running into anything or falling off a cliff or something like that. But as you're walking along, you're realizing at first the hill is pretty steep, eventually gets a little less steep, and then it finally flattens out. Then it actually starts going down. By that point, you've gone too far. You've continued right past the peak. You've got to back up if you want to find the highest point on the hill. Well, the marginal principle is all about finding that peak. It's finding the highest point on the hill. It's finding the point where you're not still going up the hill with an additional step, nor have you quite started going back down the hill. Instead, you're right there at the top on kind of the flat level ground before you start going down to the bottom. Right? And that's all about that. That's the consequence of optimization. As you've reached the optimal point, you can go no higher. Any adjustments in either direction bring you to a lower point. If this is profit maximization, changing output in either direction will bring you lower profits. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like, I'll see you next time.